Hello, everybody. It's Mike Nelson with EfficientLending.net. First and foremost, as always, thanks for coming into my YouTube channel, checking me out on my blog, YouTube, wherever you're finding me online. I always appreciate it when people take time to check out my content. All right, topic for today. We're going to go through what I use as the three-step pre-approval process and what you can expect in this process, how it flows, timing, etc. It's a really easy process. As I said, there are three steps. The first is our initial conversation. The second is the financial qualification. And the third step is we issue the pre-approval letter that goes to the real estate agent. All right, let me just very quickly unpack each of these three steps. The first one, introductory or intro conversation. The initial conversation. All we're doing here, first step is I'd rather always start with a customer, but we're just going to have a quick conversation about me introducing myself, who I am, my background, very short conversation. But look, loans are personal, and we're asking a lot of personal information. So I just find it typically is best if I just share some information about myself. I'd rather talk about you, the customer, but typically it's a good place to start. All right, second part of the initial conversation is just discussing what you, the borrower, want, where you're at, what your needs are, what your short-term, long-term goals are. Hopefully it's a lot more you talking and a lot more me listening. That's typically the best way it goes. And then in that, we'll just do a very initial brief financial assessment. Talk about things like income, assets, price points, what payments you're comfortable, things of that nature. And then always we want to end this conversation with question and answers. Look, mortgages are complex and they're nuanced, and it's best if you, the borrower, have time to kind of explore some questions. Second step goes into qualification, and this is really where we're pulling credit, and then you're sharing a set of documents. Usually it's not too complex, but it's just documents, things like pay stubs, W-2s, possibly taxes, asset bank account statements, things of that nature. And so then we just go through a qualification phase. I build the file reflective of what our initial conversation was, and we get what are called findings. And findings is a fancy word. It's just a program that we use as lenders that interfaces with both Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and it gives us an idea of how likely that borrower is to be qualified for the mortgage. And in this stage, the second stage, we also review estimated fees, estimated loan-to-value ratios, estimated debt-to-income ratios, and these are the ratios that are really important in qualification. And I also like to talk about things like interest rates and points and term and how those relate really to your personal situation. So that's the second step, qualification. And then the last and the third is we issue the pre-approval letter. Now, this pre-approval letter is something that you use and you provide to your real estate agent. And so they know, the buyers and the sellers, obviously you're the buyer, but the sellers also know that you're qualified for a mortgage and that you can, in fact, perform on the purchase contract and purchase the house. A couple things about the pre-approval letters. I personally issue those after the customer has selected who they're going to work with as a lender. So these pre-approval letters take a lot of work and a lot of effort. I always encourage people to shop loans. Look, we'll compete for your business. We want to earn your trust. That's no big deal. But what we don't want to do is have a lender issue a pre-approval letter and then have the loan shopped after that process. It's not good for the buyers. It's not good for the sellers. And it's not good for the real estate agents. And it's really not good for the lender as well, because we've done a lot of work up in good faith that we're going to be moving on and funding the loan. So third and final steps, pretty simple. We after the customer has selected their lender of choice, hopefully it's us, obviously, I want to earn your trust. We issue the pre-approval letter, and then we move through the purchase contract when you decide to buy a home. So that's what you can expect. It's pretty simple and pretty easy. It's a process I've found has worked very well and is very reliable. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call me. I love to help anybody I can and answer any questions I can. As always, thanks for checking out my content online. I really appreciate it. I just hope you have a great week. Thanks again.